Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the WGL EU relegation stage. We do apologise for the break that we did have, of course, between our first two games. We did have to wait for a round of 8 to resolve to get on towards our semi-finals, but we do have our semi-finals ready to go. This one is going to be between Team Knackebrod and, of course, Team WASP.
Yeah, so two teams which we haven't seen a lot of. I mean, WASP has been around a little bit, some infamous names. We've got some players from Knackebrod, which is an old German team, some players from Uprising, for instance, Cooks, who's a team captain. Knackebrod, more of a new team, been playing in Silver Series, 4th place there this season. I've got a lot of good players in there. Some will recognise, of course, Crooks, who came from Dragonborns, which was Dragonborns Oda Mortis. Kansler crew during the Season 3 finals, and obviously dropping out for a couple of seasons, joining us again for a chance at qualifying for the Wargaming League Europe for Season 2. So I think this is going to be a great match. When they last played, it was Knackebrod to walk away with it 5-2. And, I expect that this is going to be slightly closer there.
Absolutely. And of course, Knackebrod, for those of you who aren't sort of German or Swedish speaking, it is that crisp bread that you get, the savoury stuff.
Dry as anything.
Yeah, but like you put like peanut butter on there and stuff. The WASP brand crackers, the Swedish ones. Exactly. I know those ones. Yes, of course. So in the last few matches we've seen now, some of these teams start to show themselves. No Mercy are done. They are out. They're out of contention. They cannot make the Gold Series, and so is, to be honest, ASAP. ASAP are out as well. Have a look at this one here. You can see only WUSA is the only team, I guess, qualifying through that we saw in Gold Season last time. So this is good. I mean, WUSA, their match against RR coming up after this one here. Both of these two teams, I'd definitely be waiting to see what they've got to show us here being Silver Series ones. Exactly.
So both of our Gold Series teams are out. WUSA got lucky with a wildcard thing, so they managed to go through. So this is going to be really interesting. I don't know. I think I'm kind of disappointed that both As Soon As Possible and No Mercy dropped. I think both those two teams, though, need another series of Silver Series to get some of those kinks out, to work some of the issues. I think they are almost there. I think we saw good games from both of them. I really have to give a tribute to No Mercy and As Soon As Possible. They really did bring us some great matches. I mean, ASAP, taking almost a tiebreaker against Tornado Rocks, which of course went into the season finals in 2nd place, which will be happening on the 19th of September, so just a couple of weeks. They've been great, and I have to say, I'm just a little bit disappointed that those two have dropped.
Absolutely as well. And I mean, having a look at that one as well, going down to RR 5-0, definitely HASAP probably need to drop down to silver or whatever and make their way back up. And been a tough season for them. They were never really sure whether they were sort of felt comfortable in the Gold Series. Takes time, I guess, for these guys as well. And No Mercy put those 3 rounds up. KB actually had a lead against them. No Mercy managed to take it close, but unfortunately they will also be dropping away. So again, only WUSA, the only remaining team who was in the Gold Series last season, and they have a chance to rejoin their comrades on that ladder if they can win this next game, of course, the one after the one we're casting now. So, all right, let's do it. Knackebrod versus WASP. You said you know a little bit about it. I remember Crux TM as well from Kansler Crew. I remember Gamescom 2013. I remember his face. So be good to see what his team can sort of do here. Looks like in his time since then he has sort of formed some players around him and made their way up through the Silver Series. So obviously our map picks as well have been decided. Mines will be our first map of the day. Of this game, should I say. Very hard to have an idea of what these two teams are going to bring, though.
I would say that Mines is definitely WASP's map pick. I think Himmelsdorf is more Knackerbrod's map pick because they did play against WASP on this map as well, and they managed to get 3 rounds in a row off them. So I think it's going to be, we really have no clue how these two are playing. We've seen how they've done in the Silver Series. We get a general idea of what kind of maps they like to play against each other and what kind of maps they played in previous rounds, but it's not like we've actually seen them play a whole load of times like we have the other teams. So it's much of a new experience for us as it is for all you guys out there as well. And I'm always super excited by relegation matches. We've never streamed them before. This is a totally new thing this season. First time we're on air. First time we're actually showing this to everyone. As a kind of like additional feature, just we might as well.
Why not?
It's great to see the journey these teams go through from Silver Series, from Bronze Series, from Silver Series to the relegation matches, and you get to see that whole progression. Next season, we'll be seeing the 2 teams that will be joining us again. And one of them will be, of course, it could be WASP, for instance, but the other one will be totally new.
That's right. One of these 2 teams will be joining us in the Gold Series next season. Let's have a look at our first map for this match. It's going to be Mines.
Mines, a small summertime map with lots of hills, rocks and other cover. The teams start the battle in the usual locations. But the base locations are different. One is located in the bottom part of the village and the other one is in the water. The key directions here are the hill and the island. That's why the teams will often select fast vehicles and tanks with strong turrets.
All right, Oliver, we're on Mines here to kick things off. Knackebrod on the defense to start with, and WASP attacking in blue.
Yeah, so both teams going for artillery. That's the kind of norm on this map. Although, let's be honest here, usually one team just picks it up, normally the attacker. But interesting stuff. You got a normal start from Knackebrod with the T-54s, the IS-3 sitting down low, and the rest going forwards. And it's just going to be exchange of artillery fire. Knacker can't stay in that location for too long because it will be starting to be worn down by the artillery of Psycho, so they have to be really careful of that one. Spiker and Christian are going forwards in the 2 T-54s lightweights, and they might just be a little bit too late. As you can see, Knackebrod has got the hill.
Because Wild Soul Killer just pulling back off of that one, knowing that he was under threat in the imminent space of time. So now he's just sitting back on that hill, knows they're giving it over to Knackebrod now. And WASP just setting up here, still having the IS-3 kept back, and they're using those two T-54 lightweights to get those flanking shots, as what we normally see here. But from here, if WASP want to make a move here, they need to do it as a unit. It'll be interesting to see if they try and go for that K4 area to see if they can dig anyone out. But Knackebrod definitely have control of that hill. You can see Crux there just looking out over, forcing Cooksey right on back. Tarantula's having a shot there. You can hear that high caliber weapon being fired. The 2 T-54 lightweights, Spiker and Krista, just going to bide their time.
Yeah, so this is, WASP just in a really defensive position. They haven't got the backsides of Knackebrod, so that's definitely going for them. But, this time is still in favor of Knacker. They're obviously on the defensive side. They can just go forwards, and just as long as they have that hill, they definitely have the defensive advantage. WASP, like a kind of a Cancer Crew setup with tanks from north to south. The T-54 on the hill just there to lock down Crux, essentially, and they haven't really done enough damage to warrant going forwards. Cap's now underway though, so you'll see the artillery, the M44, head down to K4, K5, so it can shoot, get direct shots straight onto the Kappa, and the T-54 just has to peek occasionally. But I think Knackebrod needs to send some more tanks down towards that T-54 if they want to have a really good chance of keeping that Kappa under control.
See Crux on the screen just before, just harassing from the top of that hill. But Raymond sitting back for WASP on that 54 lightweight is able to keep him fairly quiet. And there's Krista taking a big hit. He's just going to back away, at least to the side, get down on the other side of that hill. Shots are still ringing in from Tarantula, but he's yet to connect any of them in a meaningful manner. However, the capture has been stopped. Crux is getting softened up a little bit here on the hill. Having Raymond in that position has been beneficial for WASP right now. He can try and keep him quiet, and Crux is constantly trying to get a read on his position and hasn't been able to connect at all so far. Let's see, WASP taking their time. They still have 4 minutes to work with Crux. They're going to miss another shot. The cap has been restarted here. Those IS-3s on the hill, though, have to see what they want to do. Well, they want to push off here. The Knackebrod want to try and get offensive and aggressive, try and shake WASP off that western side. Or they'll bide their time. Only time will tell. I
think WASP is just committing to that left side. They can't really get the hill anymore because the IS-3's positions. They're safe for artillery. They're safe from the T-54s down south. So I think this is going to be about the hill play, about the cap number 2 play. See what they can force out of Knackebrod, see if they can get the artillery down. What those T-54s going to do, I mean, the classic thing would be to engage onto Angus, who's sitting down in K4, K5. So you just get the overmatch on him. That essentially cancels out the ability for the artillery to make the resets. As you just be able to kill it very quickly if you do lose control. As I said, I think Knackebrod need to get more tanks towards where that T-54 is down south.
Interesting here, Cooksey actually moving up. Wild Soul Killer getting lucky to avoid the shot towards him. Tarantula trying to take down Cooksey as well. Some counter battery happening as well. Psycho is trying to get some shots on towards his opposite number, but did not connect that one either. He's sitting right up the top corner of the map in A1, but he can, of course, in the M44 still shoot the map. The lightweights, although, on the move from the western side. They're going towards Angus now, just going to try and take him out. There's 3 of them as well. They've been joined by an extra. Invictus now coming out of the woodwork to try and push on towards his 54 lightweight, but they're taking a lot of damage to do this. Krista and Invictus down towards half health. There's IS3s on the hill were doing work. Now, Cooksey trying to come up for a shot. Not going to connect it. Wild Sourkiller having to back right on down. And Psycho still looking for a shot, but there's really not much he can shoot at with these IS3s on the hill, tucked away behind those rocks here. There's another bounce off failware here. 2 minutes and 15 seconds coming up right now. WASP haven't really got a meaningful advantage. Haven't really. Oh my lord! Tarantula at close range managed to take down Invictus. I think he wasn't spotted by WASP and they paid the ultimate price.
That's really good play by Tarantula and bad play by Invictus. He was trying to, attempt the shot out of Tarantula, and of course he's going to hit it because it's very close range in the M44. It's a Howitzer, very good at these short distances, and that's given Knackebrod a good lead.
All right, our pad does go down. Wild Sourkiller looking towards the south side of the map here. Close it is indeed, as 1 minute 45 now does come up on the clock. Knackebrod with a slight lead at the moment. Raymond shooting dirt, don't know what the plan was there. He knew Hellfish was coming towards me, just sprays that one. He gets lucky though, as Hellfish bounces one off his upper glasses. He'll put up lean towards him now, but the 1v1 against an IS3 is never going to be a good scenario, especially with his rear to him now. Hellfish should take his time, take the shots, and he's got to get the track on towards Raymond as well. Raymond will bounce off him yet again. Only 4 tanks left for Knackebrod here, but they do have the lead in health points. Again, Wild Sourkiller takes a big hit. Raymond forced to try and back away. So WASP have to use his guns in the game to get the advantage, as time does tick low.
That's the thing. The time is really the essence here for Knackebrod. They just want to survive for as long as possible. They're actually ahead in tanks now as well, so thanks to some good exchanges and, Failware doing a good job in the IS3, taking down that T-54 despite the fact it's a lot faster. And that's just, one of the benefits of having the hill as well. If the IS3 had managed to, lose sight of that T-54, you could just have Crooks on the hill, taking care of it, no problem at all. So they got WASP completely locked down, and they can just wait the next 45 seconds until the round is over, or they can just push in and take these 2 out.
So 2 IS3s, Failware and Almighty R2 are looking straight down the barrel at these 54 lightweights. Spiker and Krista, really not much they can do with this particular setup. Crux is going to be coming around from the side as well. He'll be there just to get the shots. He's actually up on the hill. He gets an easy shot towards Krista now. He's down to a 1 shot, forced to back away with all 10 health points remaining. Spiker can avoid that shot for now, but really WASP are just biding their time. Psycho, I think he landed a shot there off screen. I'm not quite sure. He's in that back corner doing some damage. Still, it's going to take a little bit more than that. There's not enough time here for WASP to bring it up, and Knackebrod have successfully defended this one out. That's a good start for them on the map of mines. Yeah,
great start for them. A little bit hairy at some occasions, but I think ultimately, the 3 T-4 push from into the south was the right idea, but they didn't do anything with it. Obviously, they were a little bit worried about the tanks on the hill, what kind of damage they can do, but just sitting there just wasn't the idea. I think, once you've taken down that T-54, you can take down the artillery of Tarantula very easily. And then you can do whatever you want. As long as you have the IS-3 and the T-54, which is sitting further forward, keeping control of those guys on the hill, you can push into the cap and you can get good locations there. But ultimately, it would have been about digging Knackebrod off that hill. They would have had to get together. They would have had to group up, use that tank advantage, use that 2 tank advantage, let the artillery work a little bit, and then they can aggress up the hill. So, I mean, we did see initially WASP had that advantage, as you said, and that very much turned around there. Now, it almost... The map unfolded in the classical mines manner, or the way we normally expect to see it. It was fairly standard. Yeah. Knackebrod took the hill. We saw WASP work around the western island, and we're looking at now they're going to push these 2 lightweights up, towards that K4 area, wherever it was, and get in underneath the skin of Knackebrod. But what went wrong for them there as well? You did sort of elucidate on it there, but where was the moment, I guess, in that round where things didn't work out? Because that push with the lightweights seemed standard, but they took a heck of a beating from those IS-3s in the middle of the map. Yeah, for sure. And, I think that the turning point was Tarantula hitting that 764 damage HP shot against Invictus. An experienced and good player, but he just got caught out there. And then, that essentially cancelled out any advantage they had. They had the T-54 advantage. They could have had the artillery advantage as well. That was cancelled, and you could kind of see, WASP wasn't really sure what to do. They had the 2 T-54s. They were worried about the Knackebrod having the hill. And I do say this before, if you're going to play that western side, your artillery needs to work. It needs to be doing damage. It needs to be getting a good advantage. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to get that hill easily. You're not going to be able to come from multiple angles, I don't think.
And it seems like Knackebrod defended themselves quite well on that hill. Those IS-3s, for the most part, were safe from any sort of artillery fire, using the ridge, of course, on the left side of it. Have a look at the damage countbacks as well. Tarantula, yeah, only hit that one shot, and that was all he really had to do. Just that one big hit that got the kill for him. He was looking, you could see he was, you know, desperately looking for some shots. He fired 13 in that round, but there was that one that connected that really did make the big difference. I mean, Hellfish there with a good round on that IS-3. And honestly, WASP a little bit quiet there, and Victor Sony with a couple shots there, and Cooksey with one hit, I think. One hit. He did get a killing blow there, but we saw him move on towards the cap, and then off the cap, sort of up the hill, put himself in a fairly compromising position there. He had time, because those IS-3s on the hill, from what I could see anyway, were firing on the lightweights down the south. He was going up there to try and, I don't know, follow up on damage, and just didn't do a lot at all. Yeah,
for sure. I mean, they could have sat in the cap because they took down that T-54 down south. They could have just put a tank in there, and they could have forced Knackebrod to make the move. And that move would have been some sort of push onto the cap with the IS-3s. You have the 3 T-54s down south. You can just shoot that cap all day long. You can shoot those IS-3s all day long. But that just didn't work out for them. But yeah, I think they're going to have a better round here. I think both teams are now warmed up. We're about to head on to the second round here. Knackebrod once again defending, and WASP on the attack.
It is time to jump into game, ladies and gentlemen. Let's see what we have on our second round here, of course. No one changing sides just yet, and Knackebrod does have another defensive round up their sleeve. Let's see how it plays out, though. To see a T-32 for Spiker being picked up here, and a 4.16 for Angus.
Yeah, 4.16 is a really nice tank on this map. Not picked as much as I would have expected. It's definitely more of an RU and CIS pick than it is a European. I think the Europeans like their T-54s a little bit more, but yeah, let's see what WASP has to do. The artillery did good work. I think it has to do a couple more shells this round. You know, get that early advantage. You kind of use a shock and awe factor here against Knackebrod, who have expected those T-54 lightweight to go to that western side, and you know, to be fair, they've been completely locked down. It's a 3 versus 3 situation, but of course Knackebrod in a much better place. So I think they've seen that WASP, they've seen that Knackebrod have that western side. They just want to push up the hill. They got the T-32 going forward, acting as a turret, acting as a kind of wall, not allowing Knackebrod to get that hill if they do decide to rotate. That's right, and Cooksey was watching that hill the whole time, so he would have been able to tell the rest of WASP whether Knackebrod were trying to take that hill. Now he'll start moving. You can see him on screen there. Bit of an average round for him in the last one. Hopefully he can turn things around. I believe he's their captain as well, but now he's the push on towards the hill. Not a lot of damage being taken at all now. You can see these 54 lightweights essentially can get up on that hill unspotted. Very minimal presence for Knackebrod on that hill or on the center of the map at all. So WASP silently make their way up towards that hill, looking for some shots here. A couple blind ones coming out there. I think Wild South Killer one towards Failware, didn't quite connect there. Paddy's actually taken a hit in the back corner. Not often you see an IS-3 in such a rear position, I guess. And you can see a very bit of a spread here for Knackebrod over the map. I want to see how these artillery factor into it. You said how important it was going to be, and WASP are the only team with one this round. Yeah, so the interesting position, of course, is the 4.16. You can see Knackebrod 100% expecting a WASP to try and push down that down into the south, into that spawn area where the 1 is marked on the minimap. So I think that's a normal push, because you got to consider as well, Knackerbrod's 100% aware of the fact that they've given up the hill for that western side. So they're playing a very defensive lineup here. The only one really far forward is Hellfish, who's in that T-54 lightweight, spotting where the IS-3 is. He hasn't shot any, even though he's had the potential to. So Knackebrod, you know, they played that previous round as well quite defensively. They're playing this round quite defensively. I think this is a pretty slow team, and they just want WASP to be the attackers. You know, they want them to play the archetypal role, and not potentially give away a round for no reason. Slow and steady wins the race here for Knackebrod. Now, let's see WASP heading out towards that eastern side of the map, perhaps posturing towards that cap number 1 on the east. We do know that Knackebrod, their defense on the hill, and of course on the map is a little bit less. Thank you there, producer. How you doing, ladies and gentlemen? This is how we cast, by the way, bent over our screens. Shots coming in here as well. Some artillery fire on towards that island, and Hellfish does see that one whizzing past him. He knows he's not spotted though. That wasn't even close to connecting. And he's just trying to keep, you know, honestly, he's kept Cooksey quite quiet up on that hill, really hasn't moved too far.
Yeah, Knackebrod just waiting for the push for WASP, and here he comes. Raymond, a wide-star killer out in front. Big hit towards Raymond, and a big 428 shaved off of him. Fail where you can see Knackebrod keeping those IS-3s back in reserve. Now they can really bring them to bear if WASP push into them now. Invictus coming forward, so there's wide-star killer as well. He wants to go up the hill. He does have a good bit of momentum to get him there. Going to be a little bit slow, but Foulware turning his turret laboriously to get his eyes on those targets. Has left the back of his tank a little bit exposed here now as Hellfish takes down that M44. So that is the artillery off the map already. The push forward for those 54 lightweights has yielded good results. And now, Wild Star Killer and Invictus might find themselves in a bit of a compromising position there. They can be shot by Angus in the back corner. They're looking for Pat as well. They want to get him off the map and then look for Failware or someone else. But Raymond might be in trouble right now. He bounces his shot off that IS-3 and he gets taken down.
Yeah, this is going to be super hard for WASP to get back into this. But I think, Knackebrod are being super slow. They're very, very defensive. They're not taking the advantages they could possibly take. I thought Agnus can join Failware and they can just push into Invictus and Whiteside Killer. As long as they have that IS-3 down south, keeping Spiker under control, and they should be okay. But Crux is completely left on his own against the IS-3, against the T-32. He's just going to poke every once in a while, keep that IS-3 down, and not let it ingress too far forwards. He's
drawn the attention of 4 tanks right now, and Victor's Wildstar Killer and Cooksey all going towards him. Even if he dies right now, the value that he's gained in distraction and keeping these guys busy is going to be worth it. Absolutely now. Do see the kills coming out. Wildstar Killer does drop. Tarantula goes down. Crux is still alive against all the odds, but Cooksey will pick him up. Now Almighty Arturo trying to get the finish on towards that IS-3. Needs a high roll for that one. Doesn't connect the shot. And now Invictus is going to protect his big brother and get the finish on towards that 54 lightweight. Things turning around a little bit here as it goes even, but the extra tank in favor of WASP here is going to be definitely paying dividends for them now as Foulware coming forward towards the Invictus and Cooksey. This is not a fight he really wants to make right now. He doesn't even connect the shot. He had to hit that one, and he doesn't. He backs up, and Invictus can smell blood. He's coming forward now, but there, Angus gets a finish on towards Invictus. 3v3. The cap has begun now. A minute 30 left in the game. Foulware just trying to hang on. Good shot towards Spiker now, and he's still alive. Bounces one more shot, but that is it. Angus and Pad have to hold on now. A minute and 20 seconds here. It's going to require 2 tanks at least to capture this one out within this time. Knackebrod have the firepower. A lot of WASP are one-shots. Angus can take more than one shot and survive.
The problem is right now is Spiker. He's sitting on the hill in that T-32. I'd prefer to be in WASP's position if they can use that T-32 effectively. Just keep Paddle and Agnus down, keep them in a position where they can't poke too much, and let Christian and let Cooksey do the damage in the IS-3 and the T-54s, as Paddle does look like the next target.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty aggressive here from Krista coming towards Paddy. He's a one-shot to an IS-3 here, so definitely some aggression, especially where Cooksey and Spiker can't actually assist from the positions that they're in right now. So maybe just trying to bait Pad to come forward on that IS-3 and expose himself to the rest of WASP. Pad is playing cannily, taking his time. Every shot counts from here on out. Angus has to get involved right now. If they get the gang up on towards Pad, it's going to be over very, very quickly. And you can see now Angus trying to respond. He's moving a little bit up on towards that cap. Spiker is coming forward as well, but he's looking towards Angus here. Going to be very, very close. Spiker is not a one-shot, no. Oh, no! Cooksey's just killed his teammate. Chris has gone down. He's messed up in the biggest way possible. And Pat is still alive. He can make the shot towards his IS-3 now and clean him up. It couldn't go any worse right now. WASP, they've just completely choked. I've never seen anything like that. They've run out of time as well. Maybe they realized that was what happened, but... Oh.
Done.
I'm so done. I cannot believe what I just saw.
I think that's the first team kill we've had all season. If you count relegation, it's like the normal season. But yeah, I mean, what can I say? I think, they had time to finish that game off. I thought they tried to come from every angle. I thought the T-32 should have just gone towards that left side, gone up the ramp, instead of just trying to go through the middle. Because then you're in a situation where you're between 2 tanks, or just in a situation where you're between a 416 and an IS-3. So they should use the T-32 to hold down. I mean, Spiker did 2.5k damage there in the T-32. And then you have Christia and you have Cooksey coming to take down that IS-3 as quickly as possible and keep that 416 distracted with that T-32. So that was definitely a failure in communication. Knackebrod super, super passive. That works against WASP there, but I don't think it would work against a team that does take advantages of having an extra gun in the game.
That's right. And of course, the teams that are more passive we find in the Gold League tend to struggle a bit. The meta now that we see is definitely that more aggressive and proactive teams who can make quick rotations and adaptations are successful. So Knackebrod here playing with a bit more of a Season 3-4-esque style. It's worked out for them thus far. Yeah, I don't have any words to really describe what we just saw. Oh my gosh, really? I'm sorry, I'm done. I am actually done. So 2 games in now, of course. Knackebrod do have that 2-round advantage here. Things are going to be changed up now, of course. Them having to attack. Looking at a team that is a defensive team like Knackebrod is, how does that translate? How does that play style translate into a situation where you have to come forward?
Well, it looks like they're a very standard team. They're not doing anything completely out of the books. I think for Knackebrod, it's going to be about taking the hill with the T-54s and then just use the artillery just to punish the IS-3s, the T-54s, or WASP. You know, I think they're going to play very standard. I think the one thing that's going to be playing on Knackebrod's mind, that WASP has got a lot of T-54 lightweights. They've tried a challenge for that hill quite a few times already, and you know, we might just have a situation here where we have just a full brutal dogfight.
Well, I don't know if that's going to suit Knackebrod, given that their style, from what we've seen, has been a little bit more passive. But let's jump in a game now and see exactly how this one unfolds. And Knackebrod now on the attacking side.
Yeah, so T-54s from Knackebrod, 4 of them, and obviously 5 of them for WASP. So WASP technically should be able to win the exchanges, but obviously WASP being on that southern side with the slightly worse spawn, you can't get up to the hill just as quickly as you can from the north. So Knackebrod have that hill advantage now. They have the hill, which is just a standard. It's a given from most teams on this map when you're starting from the attack. Now, typical thing, Knackebrod is going to spend the next, let's say, minute just trying to spot out, find something for the artillery tarantula to try and hit before they do decide to make a move when they have, let's say, 3 to 4 minutes left, when you know the clock is starting to run down a little bit. It's a small map, but you've always got to take the clock into account.
Last time these 2 teams went head-to-head, it was in the Silver Series, and Knackebrod did have the win. It was a 5-2 result for them, so they're off to a good start here. And WASP now maybe feeling the pressure of that last result weighing on their head. It wasn't that long ago as well. I know that last time they went head-to-head, Knackebrod had their measure.
Literally just said that, by the way.
Did you?
Yeah, I said that at the beginning of the match.
I get caught out sometimes? Sometimes I just tune out.
I said that at the beginning of the match, dude, but whatever, you can say it again. It's fair enough. It's a good point. I mean, I think it's undisputable that Knackerbrod's the better team.
We didn't see any mines last time. Crux, that's probably a less graceful way to exit the hill there. We've seen Synergy do it a bit smoother there. As what happens, ladies and gentlemen, sometimes I tune out to what Ollie says and then I repeat what he says. That's a good thing,
you
though.
just repeat the exact same thing.
Works in my favour, though. If I'm
later.
saying that, though, it means at least I'm saying the right thing. Ladies and gentlemen, that is what we want. Knackebrod here, pulling off the hill. Obviously, Crux in a little bit interesting fashion, sliding on down, getting the old track. Heading over towards the western side now, so gonna mix it up, gonna go for that push here. There is a bit of presence for WASP on that island here. This is going to be the proof in the pudding, really, for Knackebrod here. If they can make things happen on this round. WASP have a fairly standard setup. Hill was given over to Knackebrod, but they're going to pull off it. They're going to try for something else.
Yeah, they're going to pull out that hill and they're going to send the T-54s down to that western side. I like this, though. I think a 3 versus 2 overmatch. They might get caught out, but Invictus being pretty passive, being quite far back. And it does depend on how many shells get connected. Only Cooksey in a position, actually, is not even in a position to make the shots against those T-54s. So this is good. Invictus also received 2 shells, so he's down to half HP. And right now, Elvish and Agnes, they're going to have a field day against Spiker.
That Spiker takes 2 shots very, very quickly. And very safely, Knackebrod is actually getting across. Crux almost got involved as well. A shot towards Spiker. That's a 1 lightweight off the table. Invictus at half health and now is dealing with the imminent threat of more of those lightweights coming, hurtling towards him over that island. He has to get out, but it's not really safe to do so now. There's an IS-3 and a 54 lightweight there at sort of F2 with E3. Invictus is in deep trouble.
Very, very deep trouble. This is going so well for Knackebrod. They've got the T-54 overmatch. Even, you know, they even sending Hellfish, who had the lowest amount of HP forwards in a T-54. Maybe a little bit of a misplay, but I think they've got enough breathing room right now. So they have that southern side, which means the hill is theirs to take. They can just do so much damage against these IS-3s because they're slow to react, that they're going to be able to get the cap. They can just do whatever they want right now.
We could see the push was the response for WASP up on towards the hill. They said, okay, well, we're in trouble here. We need to move, and they did. On the hill, but Krista's getting hammered here. That was, I think, 2 lightweight shots here. I'm not sure, but he and Raymond now just wondering where to go next. Really, Pad is holding down in that pivot position on that IS-3. He will now start to come forward as well. He knows he has a finish on Krista if he wants to take it, and he has a lot of backup. Knackebrod might start to close the net on these guys here in a moment here as WASP starting to wonder what their options are. Not many. Krista goes down south. He's buried in that tanker now. Raymond sitting up on the hill. He's going to take a bit of damages now. We can see R2 pushing up with Padder. It's about to get ugly for WASP.
Yeah, it's getting so ugly for WASP. They're just being stung to death right now. Raymond heading off the hill. and Knackebrod just doing so much damage. I think, you know, World Sal Killer can do some work here with the T-54 lightweight. He's in a great position to take down Paddle. He even found one, but still, there's just too many tanks.
Paddle's getting the paddle right now. He's forced to back up a little bit low on health as Crux and Andrews can come forward and get the finish quite comfortably here towards Wild South Killer. And then Psycho will obviously be their next target and will be dispatched off fairly quickly as well. They've done it. Knackebrod, you know, we set the challenge for them. We said, this is going to be the test of your ability here. Can you make it happen on the attacking side? Can you show us a little bit more dimension than just that sort of slow defensive team? And they've done that here. They've done it very, very well. Psycho now awaits his fate. And Knackebrod only lost one tank in that whole round. Very well done by them. They'll get the cap completed, but their opponents are already decimated. And that's a 3-0 here to our challenger team. Very good work for them.
And it seems like a kind of one of those rounds that if you lose, you're going to lose the whole series disastrously. Like that was such a one-sided round. I think like 4.9, 5k HP still in favor of Knackebrod there.
So much.
They just systematically destroyed WASP. They took that southern side. They got great overmatches onto the T-54s. There was nothing there from WASP to actually get the cross damage on those T-54 lightweights either. And you know, once those two T-54s went down, it was just game over. Like they get good damage onto the tanks they're pushing up the hill, which are a little bit slow. They had the 2-tank overmatch there, that western side cap, and you know they just did everything right, and then they could just push up the hill. Easy stuff from them. And because it was such a one-sided map, you know, I would be surprised if WASP can get themselves together. It's like one of those rounds where you lose so badly, you don't come back from it anymore.
That was a striking display there. Even more so that WASP, no one on WASP got more than 1,000 damage in that game. So not only were they out-positioned, out-maneuvered, they just got completely outplayed. You know, even for losing teams, even when they get wrecked in a game or like this, tactically outplayed, they still can do a bit of brawling here. But it looks like the WASP were just shell-shocked by everything that KB brought in that game. They really were not in that one. Krista not getting any damage done as well. Only 1 kill for the entirety of that team. And they don't mean a heck of a lot, but it is indicative of lack of damage being dealt. You broke it down a little bit as well. I want to dive back into sort of the formations and the way things played out here. Knackebrod actually pulled back off the hill. They decided to go for that western island. Now, when you're in a position like you're up on the hill, you have that control, can you persist with that hill play? Can you stay on the hill? Can you go towards the east? Or was that definitely the best decision possible that KB made?
I think it was, because it's more about what you don't know than you know. I mean, if you get spotted into certain locations, then you can guess where the other team is going to be. I thought... You know, they didn't spot anything down in that southern cap. You know, the 2 T-54s over to that western side, they saw that only Cooksey and the IS-3s below, so they knew they wouldn't get shot from the side too much. So, I mean, that's definitely a big factor. If you can get across to that southern side without receiving more than a tank's HP, you're okay. Like you can do the work there as long as you get the overmatch. Then it comes about control. Like you need to be able to control and slow the other team's attack as they do try and get the overmatches on you up and towards that hill area. But yeah, that was really good from Knackebrod. I like that a lot. It's good to see, you know, the Silver Series teams, they are really on a level. They're playing just as well as the Gold Series teams, or almost as well as the Gold Series teams. And they're executing, you know, to a really high standard. Well,
we saw this as well. Like, I mean, the fact that ASAP and No Mercy got knocked out in the first round shows that these teams have a caliber that is good enough to sort of be a part of the Gold League. And we've been treated to some excellent stuff by Knackebrod so far. But let's jump into our last round and see if WASP have the gumption to dig their heels in and get themselves around on mines. They will be defending yet again now. And double LTTB lineup coming in here for WASP.
Yeah, interesting stuff. Cancer Crew kind of thing, where they have the thing. They have a kind of double LCTBs just to poke around that western side, try and get that Lighthouse Island as much as possible. But, you know, if I was Knackebrod, doing the same thing twice probably won't work because of triple IS-3s. Those triple IS-3s are what it's going to be about. Tarantula's not playing the artillery, so that's a good pick up there by WASP to guess that artillery won't be featured in this round. So the IS-3s will be a massive factor here, and they really... You know, they really have to see, okay, how do we deal with these IS-3s as they do push up the hill?
I think we do have a disconnect issue on our end, I think, at the moment.
Yeah, Crux is doing a wheelie.
Yeah, Crux is literally in midair on my screen right now. So we'll jump out and we'll hopefully get that one sorted as soon as possible. Well, it's a decent setup there for what we could see. It's possible if it's our line here that's gone down, this game is still being played out. There are some takes in midair right now. That's quite impressive.
Yeah.
So, I mean, not much we can say. We'll probably duck to a quick break, I think, while we get our internet sorted. If we do miss a result of that game, we apologise. We'll try and fill you in on all the juicy details when we get back. Don't go too far. A couple kinks to iron out, and we will be back. Yep. Thank you very much for joining us here, ladies and gentlemen, for the WGL EU Season 1 relegations. Unfortunately, we had a bit of a dropout on our end here and our line went down, but the game did go ahead. And sadly enough, we couldn't get to see it, but WASP actually got a round back.
Yeah, they managed to get around in the bag. You know, Knackebrod with those IS3s, WASP with those IS3s probably pushed up the hill, managed to take down the T54 lightweights and just managed to get through there. I noted, you know, Tarantula being the T37, not an ideal tank for trying to deal with IS3s, whereas the M44 definitely is. So that's maybe what happened. Obviously, you didn't see it, so I can only speculate. But anyway, that's a bit of light there for WASP for sure. It's thank you very much for the spectator tank. Cheers, mate. But yeah, it's definitely some light here for WASP. I would say, though, Knackerbrod's map and just their playstyle, you know, pretty slow, pretty methodical, does suit Himmelsdorf.
Oh, yeah, Himmelsdorf, I mean, coming up now as well. We saw it on paper before the game. We're thinking how these two teams are going to go from it. And now you know, we can speculate a little bit as to the expected sort of style of play. You know, sort of speaking to, I did have chat to Carmen beforehand about some of these teams and what he expected to see from them as well. And he did say, expect Knackebrod to be a little bit slower in their play, not super aggressive. They're definitely not a team that trips themselves up with, you know, overly aggressive tactics here as well. So it's going to be interesting here. His predictions as well for this one, I think, are quite even from what I remember here. So,
well, that's no surprise.
That's true.
50-50. 50-50. That's easy. I
think Carmen, his exact one was. Oh no, he didn't do it because this is a semi-final, so he only did it for the first matches. Yeah. But he thought that Wusa would lose their game. So who knows here. But we're going to jump in anyway. Himmelsdorf is going to be our second map for this round. And let's see now if WASP can start to pile those rounds back on. They definitely need them right now. Knackebrod here would like to get a bit closer to closing this one out.
Yeah, so, I mean, this is definitely Knackebrod's map. I think this is the one they can really start to get some good rounds on. They looked good on mine, so just love to see that last round, but obviously we had an issue there. But last time they played, Knackebrod won all 3 rounds on this one. 2 defensive, 1 attack, I believe, so they have the stats as well to back themselves up. Interesting pick up with the LTTB. Don't often see that on this one. And the T29 as well. So WASP with a pretty classically German lineup. I mean, the T29, I see a lot of German teams liking that one. And yeah, even in the old days. So good stuff here from WASP. I'm really curious to see how it works out. But, you know, Knackebrod have the easiest side to play.
And the T29, great for some hull down and plenty of opportunities to do just that on Himmelsdorf. And yes, Tarantula did spot, I think it was Spiker there in that LTTB. So I know there's a little bit of action happening up on the hill, but not enough for him to commit to right now. Spiker in this position knows that he is protected from any shots to the rear because his hull is hidden behind that little bit of debris here. He does have a very hard turret, so it's a good position for a T29 to be in here. He's going to come forward though, join Invictus. Again, they might go for a bit of an 8-line push here. It's hard to say if they try and climb the hill here. It could cost them some serious time, but it seems like that's the way they want to go about this, at least for some of their tanks.
Yeah, the 8-line is looking like a good option for them now, but you got the IS-3 just heading the way down to the hill, and all their tanks actually heading up towards the hill. The LTTB got a good amount of information, saw that Knackebrod's not pushing the hill, so I think they might just push all the way down to A0, get that A8 area, and try and just go from there. But you can see already, you know, Knackebrod have an IS-3 there. The T-37 just maybe a little bit prematurely headed off the hill, so they won't get that information as quickly as possible. But still, you know, WASP spent a lot of time down in towards G8, and it's going to take them a long time to get up this hill. So it's really, if this works, fair enough. But if it doesn't work, they won't have enough time for anything else.
The IS-3 is fairly sprightly amongst other heavy tanks of the same tier, but even still, it takes a long time to get up that hill. Psycho again holding it down. You can see that Tarantula has backed away here, and he's actually all the way over on that western side of the map, so no risk of being spotted right now for Psycho, as he does just do a little bit of a run around that castle. Schloss, as it were. That's my German for you, baby. Just trying to get some lights. He doesn't really see too much there as Tarantula now has made his way all the way down on the western side, looking towards that K-line, and he won't find anything there as WASP have absconded. So Knackebrod, they've got to be collecting a fair bit of information from some of these moves that Tarantula's making. Yeah,
for sure. Tarantula's been really active right now, but this is what it's going to come down to. You got the IS-3 in A4, A5. You got an IS-3 in B5, B6. This is the perfect setup for a hill push from Knackebrod, in my opinion. The obviously one problem is that they got quite a lot of tanks to that western side, really not doing anything, because Tarantula's spotting for them. The only good thing about having those tanks there would be if Tarantula actually spotted a tank for them to shoot.
I'm not sure if it was so good for Tarantula to be so far away now, because WASP are pushing in now. They're making that move towards the cap. And Krista does hesitate here as Raymond punches his way forward. So here comes a response here. Now, it's a 5100 at D2. Won't take too long to get in position. There's an IS-3 there as well, who's a little bit slower. So if WASP execute this quickly and cleanly, they should be okay. Well, they are taking their time. They're going to punch down this A-line, probably come around, set up on the 7, and have some tanks in position to spot Knackebrod trying to cross over and defend. But what I find interesting about this, Oliver, is they're not using the A-line at all. Not at all. So they're hoping that Knackebrod will push across the face of the cap towards A6, A7, but they're not putting any tanks up there to bait that move. I don't know what they're doing.
No, but this is interesting as well. You got T32 versus T29, and it's really going to be interesting because if WASP can get that T32 down, or at least get in a position where it can't do anything, then it will be their game, because they can just push the middle, they can take down Crooks, they can take down the IS-3 there as well, and you can see Knackebrod are reacting, they are very much aware of that fact. And also, you know, the T32 trying to penetrate any part of the T29's turret, you know, 244 penetration, it just won't find its way through.
Yep, and the T29 used to have a fairly soft turret. The ears were a weak spot, but they have been sort of fixed up, and they are super hard to punch through now. Failware, a lot of damage being traded here. Raymond takes a big hit as well. Crux now going to come around the corner with that auto-loader ready, and Knackebrod have a decent setup for this one right now, as Invictus is tracked as he makes his way towards Failware. WASP now have control of that A-line. They're working their way in here, but Invictus does go down. down. Responsive fire comes in thick and fast from WASP, but will it be enough as Knackebrod are just laying into them right now? Wildstar Killer on that cap, very low. Krista now getting involved. Wildstar Killer does finally drop. Raymond is one shot here. There's a 5v4 situation. Knackebrod have the advantage. That T-37 a Tarantula. How will they use him though? Cooksey being harassed up here on the hill. That's Tarantula trying to get in towards him now. Just trying to ruin his day. This is preventing Cooksey from getting involved here. Wasp are being split up right now. Tarantula has been a big part of that. Now getting some cheeky rear shots towards Krista. The man has been all over the map and he plays the T-37 beautifully.
Beautiful stuff from Bratty as well, I have to say. You know, just doing so much damage in that IS-3, hitting all his shells. He was in the perfect position just to support his team from every single angle, from the left, from the right, and did a very great job. And you can see Spike is just going to charge into the middle. He knows it's game over. Cooksey on the hill in an IS-3, probably not a great tank to have there. You want to have a 5100 there to get the accurate damage, the directional firepower. And Bratty will put another frag on the board, leaving just Cooksey to Alt F4 basically.
Unless he already has. I can't for the life of me figure out why he's there. I mean, unless Tarantula tracked him on the way down the hill and he got himself stuck. I don't really know, but well, Tarantula's got to get himself some stat padding done.
Yeah, it looks like he just headed back to the garage real quick. Maybe there's disconnect, but I don't think so. I think maybe he just rage quit because, you know, that game was going so far towards the side of Knackebrod. I mean, you know, I was talking about Bratty. He did 2.5k damage there. Tragedy did the second round damage 1.7, but you can consider like 1,000 of that was just useless damage. Yep. So yeah, I mean, when you have Bratty in that position, when you have any tank in that position, to deal with that push, it's fantastic work. I think WASP should have stayed behind the cap. They went all the way down towards like that 8-line area. They should have just been in that cap up north, sat two IS-3s there, had the IS-3s on the other side, just side scraping along those buildings, so if anything comes around the corner. But they went aggressive. They decided to go aggressive, and Crooks was there waiting in the 5100, and Bratty was waiting in the IS-3.
It didn't make much sense to us as well, and I did sort of point out it's like they're not using the A-line right now. They're not going straight for the north. What we see most teams do, like you said, they push a couple of tanks right at the top, and then they sit a few more tanks on the sort of 7 line to shoot as the enemy is forced to commit across to try and take out those two IS-3s. Normally it works out so well, but not this time around here. So we have to wait and see exactly what is done about that now. You're right, I don't think it was a disconnect. It seems as if that was the way it was meant to go down here. So very strange stuff here. I don't really know why the IS-3 was sort of caught up there. I guess, sure, maybe he sort of Alt F4, maybe communication breakdown for WASP, but they don't have the time for this stuff. They don't have the liberty to be dropping rounds right now, especially to stuff like that. It's match point, 4-1.
Yeah.
One more and Knackebrod will be in the gold series. This is them qualifying and they're only this far away.
Yeah, one round. I hope the pressure's not, you know, building on them too much. I hope they just go into this next round with a cool, clear head. Don't get overexcited. Don't get the emotions.
The jitters.
Get the jitters. Don't let the emotions take away their ability and their precision, which has definitely been a couple of interesting variables for them, a couple of interesting specifications. So I would say, you know, Knackebrod will be able to finish one off. Just looking at the way the end of that round, it seemed to me that, you know, WASP just had a lot of issues there. You saw the IS-3 like exiting garage, the T-29 giving up as well. That's not indicative of a team that's in a good place right now, you know, as a unit.
Yeah, absolutely. They do need to fix some of the mistakes before they head in towards this next one here. It's going to be on Himmelsdorf, and again, WASP are going to be forced to attack. They have to come forward here as well. Seems like you know, a team that has sort of been plagued by some issues here. We were speaking about it earlier on as well. They've had some changes in team captaincy as well. They've sort of, you know, made some lineup changes in recent times, and you know, while it may have worked out for a team like Synergy, for these guys, maybe not so much now. As we're waiting on, of course, the ready ups for this next one. I mean, you know, talking about anything outside of that one, I guess the push from WASP, I mean, it was their game to lose right there. They had the onus on them to make the move, and it definitely sort of fell apart here. I mean, what would you have done? What would you have done differently? Would you have focused more on the A-line? You said that there were some fights that they pushed aggressively. They didn't need to do. Should they have just sat back and waited and maybe committed less of their force to trying to promote a response?
I think if you can get those objectives, if you can get the caps, then you don't need to push. Then you got to wait for the attacking team, the defensive team to actually push onto you, because you got the pressure there. the whole point of capping in a lot of these cases is not necessarily to get the cap done. It's to force the other team into an awkward position where they have to come forwards into your environment, into where you set up. You know, with the side scraping IS3s on Himmelsdorf, where the 5100s are sitting on the hill behind, ready to provide some good damage. But I think they just, you know, Tarantula, you know, getting up behind. You know, the aggression from WASP, unnecessary aggression. I mean, they're called WASP, but still, I think they should just calm down a little bit and, you know, don't let Knackebrod play them at their own game. But this is do or die time. We are only 20 seconds away from potentially seeing our first team in the Gold Series.
That's right. So WASP now trying to steel themselves, trying to rally. This is their last opportunity here to fight for their chance to be in the Gold Series. Otherwise, for them, the journey ends here. It's back to Silver Series for them, or whatever it may be. And for Knackebrod, they are on the precipice of making it through. And I hope they change their name for the Gold Series, because my German, my pronunciation is not good enough to get this one right. But anyway, we're going to jump in now to our last, or at least potentially last, Himmelsdorf round here. Knackebrod, it is match point, it is qualification point, and WASP are just seconds away, or just movements away from being out of it all.
Yeah, Knackebrod shouldn't do anything out of the box. They should just play their normal game and you know, have WASP come to them. They got some rounds to play with if they just be defensive and you know, just sit back. I might as well not talk anymore, because you know the 5100s are all going down to A1 to A3. So this could be super risky for Knackebrod. They're not playing the odds. The odds are to play the normal stuff you see all the other teams do. And they have stopped though in the FG area, expecting maybe a push there. And the T-32 of Almighty Arthur still up north. So you know the T-32 being that turret tank is often an indicator of where Knackebrod will reset to if they have.
They are pulling back though, so you know, as much as we saw Knackebrod there very aggressively setting up on that western side, which they have done, they do set up there. WASP always tend to take their time here. You can see right now, defensive formation. They're sitting back, they're biding their time. Now this, honestly, they benefit for being a little bit more aggressive and just making the move right now, because they're not doing anything. They're not gaining any information right now. So many times we've seen this from teams. If they're going to push towards the north, which often they invariably do, even like doing it 10, 20 seconds earlier would have made their lives so much easier, would have had their enemies far less prepared. But it seems as if Knackebrod can depend on the fact that WASP are going to be slow about this one. Yeah,
for sure. I think WASP are really under the impression that, you know, we do need to make a really decisive move. You can see all their tanks are on the 8 line. They pushed the hill last time. But to me, you know, Knackebrod is expecting that kind of variable. They got the perfect positions to deal with an 8-line push. Well, not the perfect position, but they got decent positions. T-32, IS-3, no tanks in A6, A7 potentially be taken out, but Tarantula does receive a couple of shells, could be in trouble.
That's what has been spotted here as he moves around just the outside of that main park, and he's just going to have to sit behind the building for now and wait. As he is still able to be useful, especially if he can get WASP to sort of focus on something other than himself. But now he's to push down towards the 8 line here. So the spots came out from the shots being fired, but it looks like WASP want to push 2 tanks across, at least right up towards the windows, maybe hoping for some proxy spots, maybe expecting some 8 line presence here from Knackebrod. But there is none really, so they're going to have to punch straight up down, maybe straight down the 5 line here, not go for the north. Is this advisable?
Well, the thing is, Tarantula spotted them all. This is, I mean, the perfect timing by Tarantula to head across between those 2 buildings, and maybe some miscommunication, some misplay by WASP not to have their tanks trained towards where Tarantula was, as he is a one-shot in that T-37. So Knackebrod already reacting. They got a 5100 ready on that cross. They got an IS-3, might even just boost up a little bit to get the shells on those IS-3s there. But you know, I think WASP has still got a great chance. They've got the hill still. They got tanks in you know, positive positions far forwards into the map. They got map control. They could even lock down the IS-3 in E1. And you know, this could so be WASP's round if they get this right.
Spiker there, you can see way back on C0 at the moment, just trying to set things up there. I think he was actually spotted though, so he may not be able to push down and help his team as quickly as he would like. As we do pan across, Psycho, the most forward tank. That was Spiker up the hill. There you go, he took a hit there, so a little bit dangerous for him right now to be in that position. He is on his own, and Almighty Artur is in that T-32, and just a very, very hard position to assail here. But there goes Torrential now. The cat's out of the bag. The push down the 5 line is definitely underway for WASP, and Knackebrod know it all too well. But how will they respond? It's one thing to know what the enemy's doing. It's another to respond correctly and adjust. Now, Cooksey does take a hit there coming in from Bratty. Bratty loves that spot. He used it so well in that last round, and he is just holding tight. He's a big hitter, a high damage dealer for his team. Let's see if he can fill that role yet again, because Spiker now will be making his way down on towards the camp, but Almighty Archer will have him lined up.
The problem is right now that is actually the western side. Crooks and Failware just received so much damage. They had a really bad piece of individual play where they're stuck between 2 hold-down IS-3s and a T-37 of Christio, who's just doing so much work right now. So yeah, this is so WASP's game. They're 2k HP ahead. They had great damage against the 2 IS-3s, and I think Knackebrod got a little bit too smart for their own pants, and definitely will have to fight their way back into this game.
You do have to make sure your pants are the right smartness level for the user, otherwise things can go wrong. Psycho takes 2 big hits now. Crux and Pat moving up. That's another hit towards Psycho, but look, here's WASP coming forward now. A bit of aggression goes a long way for these guys, and especially when they make it stick like this. Almighty Archer will be picked up. Wildstar Killer already looking towards his next target as Hellfish does go down. They will get the finish here as well. It's a 6v3, 6v2 make it, and Knackebrod have no way to make their way back into this round.
Yeah, this is game over for sure. It was almost game over when Crooks went forwards with Failware and got pinned between 2 tanks, because even without the tanks from the north pushing, those 3 would have fallen eventually, and that would have, of course, secured WASP the game anyway. So Failware is the last one to go down. Raymond will find that one, and finally WASP do put another one on the board, and that'll bring it 4-2. Still on match point here for Knackebrod, but that was a much better performance. Absolutely.
They definitely seemed to know what they were doing, at least on that round. Again, they took their time, though. We're seeing this a lot from WASP. Sit back, sort of wait. And as you said, it was a bit of, individual error on the side of Knackebrod. Was that in itself the reason why this was lost? Without that, do you think KB would have had a much better chance, or do you think WASP just had a really good layout this time?
I think it was. I mean, WASP knew where Knackebrod would come from. Knacker tried to get smart with flanking from that western side to get that middle courtyard area, to get the D line. But it just simply didn't work out because the 5100 was peeking that corner already. The 2 IS-3s used that cover to push forward. Sure. Go haul down below one of those dirt ramps, and then once they're there, it's game over. Then you had Christio all the way down towards that southern area, who had them between his fingers, where he had the 2 IS-3s in the T-37, and the T-37 doesn't do a lot of damage, but it's going to kill you eventually. Yep. So Tarantula falling, definitely not a good idea. I mean, it was one of the main reasons why they won the previous round. And I think, those IS-3s pushing forwards with Crooks in the 5100 was just too obvious from Knackebrod.
So obviously, Tarantula got the spots on most of WASP. When he took that damage, he sort of, up on the western side of the courtyard, spotted those tanks. What's the correct response there from WASP, from Knackebrod? Because it seems like they made the wrong one. You mentioned that aggressiveness from Crux coming out there on towards that 4 line. Was that really what killed them here? Could they just sat back and just waited for things to happen and just hold on?
They had too many tanks on that western side. You only need 1 IS-3 up north, just to side scrape to hold those tanks back. You have the rest of your tanks more in towards that eastern side with Almighty in that T-32. So when they do push, you're in a good position. You're the one to do the damage at the beginning as well. Bratty as well, the IS-3 was left completely on his own because WASP got control of that middle area, that middle road. And that middle road is such an important key factor. So, I think they needed to slow WASP down on one flank and overmatch them on another flank.
It was interesting the amount of commitment they made towards that western side of the map there as well. A lot of teams do keep a lot more tanks back, and as you said, yeah, you're right. Bratty, there was no one sort of watching his flank or watching his side. They had the standard hold down position there, and that one where Bratty was in. But apart from that, it was a very token defense here on the northern side, which is ironic because WASP haven't really ever gone towards the west aggressively against these guys. But I don't know, maybe things change now. Of course, we're going to be into the second half of this particular map, so the sides change, and now we're going to see KB on the attack side.
Yeah, I think KB were a lot better on the defense on mines than they were in the attack in many respects. Of course, they won both defensive rounds and only 1 attacking round. So this could be a totally different story here from KB. This could be the way back in for WASP. Let's see if they got any sting left in them. As again, Knackebrod still on match point. WASP still with a lot to do, but they are starting to crawl their way back. and you know, KB have to level themselves. And I know for a fact, you know, Crooks is a very volatile character. One of the reasons why he isn't any of the teams, any of the God Series teams anymore, he just causes problems. And you know, unless he's calmed that character down a little bit, when you have misplays, when you have issues like that, when you're forced into a situation you can't get out as a decent player, you definitely start to tilt your team a little bit.
Definitely no one needs a negative Nancy on their side, especially when things are getting tricky. Tarantula now, he's going to be spotting out on towards that western side of the map. There are a few tanks up there for WASP here, and Knackebrod look like they just want to gain some information. It's not a particularly crazy rollout, fairly standard. The T-32 of Bratty will probably go hull down if he can. Get up inside that window, and that's exactly what he's doing. Oh, some shots coming in towards Tarantula, so he must have been spotted there. Maybe some blind ones coming through here, but he's going to have to back away and see if he can gain information elsewhere. Again, you know, standard lineup here for Knackebrod. They have the 5100 up on the hill, Hellfish there. He won't be pushing too far off that one if he knows what's good for him. But WASP, much more of like a north-centric defense for them here. They're very much sitting on their cap. Yeah,
so, I mean, obviously with the MX-12T, WASP is going to be thinking, you know, Tarantula is going to be in that western side cap. But to be fair, you know, Team Supreme always uses the 12-ton on this map, and you know, they don't always go for that west side as well. So that's going to be playing on WASP's mind. But still, if you can execute that western side cap, it's a fantastic one, and it definitely works for you. As you know, Hellfish has that hill. They got the G-line, they got all their tanks hauled down there. They got the 5100s and the IS-3s coming along nicely. And you know, the simple fact is, there is no IS-3 in E1, which is, you know, the perfect tank with support from the T-32 and the 5100 to have in a position to deal with a western side cap.
Yeah, WASP really not pushing far down that train line at all. Very much a polar opposite to what Knackebrod did on their defensive side. Let's see which of those two strategies is going to be more effective here right now, as Knackebrod seem like they want to go west. They want to make a move. You can see Failware moving across that courtyard as well. WASP have given up map control for the most part here to Knackebrod, you know, to set up some sort of retake scenario. But if that may be the case, and Tarantula, with his small stature and size, will get up behind that little building and start the cap.
Yeah, good name for that one for sure. But yeah, this is good from Knackebrod. They've done it in good time. They got the information in the beginning with Hellfire from the middle. Tarantula was very patient there in the MX-12T, not, you know, going forwards enough to spot and also, you know, getting that cap in time. But you still got to deal with Wide Sow Killer and Spiker. Is in kind of an old school hull down position, and Tarantula even having a little bit of a cheeky poke.
Very cheeky. And we'll line up the IS-3. Has moved up on the western side here, so Knackebrod slowly just setting up here. And they might make it really hard for WASP to even get on. There's another shot towards Wild Sow Killer. Raymond now trying to get across. He gets tracked up by a shot from the 5100 up on the hill, and another one is going to connect, so good work being done by Hellfish there, just to keep him busy. Oh my god, the shots are coming in so nicely here. Knackebrod have it set up well.
Yeah, Knackebrod can just push onto Raymond, and they can also kill Invictus straight afterwards. There is an IS-3 there, just out of shot towards the left, but, you know, you got the MX-6 on the hill of Failware. You simply can't push that D-line.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Like, Failware pushed up here. Yeah, Hellfish doing so much work, almost completely dispatching Raymond on his own. He's got to be more careful now, but the shot's coming in towards Invictus. WASP being forced to turn their heads left, right, center towards the next gun that's firing at them here. They can't collect themselves. They can't focus their fire right now. Psycho and Invictus must band together right now. They have to do something with this position. Invictus is a one-shot. He has to be so careful. Failware has his BL9 poking through that window, hoping for just a glint of that IS-3 to pick him off. But now, there's Cooksey getting involved. Shots on towards Almighty Archer. And let's see now. It might be a bit of a surround scenario here as Failware. Shot on towards Psycho here. Cooksey will have one towards the rear of Almighty Archer. But there is Bratty doing work in that T-32 in the window. He hasn't moved from there all round. And even Hellfish is going to come down and get involved. I honestly, I fail to see where WASP have a really easy opening in towards this one. They have to make this mid-play work.
They could have had an opening, but the thing is Hellfish is down here.
Yeah. Yeah, he's got a wreck Psycho right now. Look at the final shot going on towards him. Hellfish probably the second kill of the map. He stayed up on that hill for so long just to see that D-line push, and it's a great setup for Knackebrod here. Really just getting straight through WASP. And Cooksey realizes now that all the teammates he was just supporting with his flanking shots are now non-existent, and he was about to be the center of attention, and not in a good way. I'll give you that one for free. As Chris now going to make his way towards the 8 line. Might be hoping to finish off Hellfish here. And there goes the Almighty Alshul. Goes down. Wildside Killer picks him up. Hellfish just gets the kill. 5 HP left on towards Krista. That's going to suck a bit of a low roll even for that tank. And Cooksey will go down. That's pretty much the story of the moment right now for WASP. It's just disappointing stuff happening to them in this round. And Spiker is going to come forward, try and hold the torch for this team to try and get through. I think Knackebrod have done it though. I think they will be joining us in the Gold Series next season now. Spiker trying to hold on, but the cap is still going. And WASP, there's nothing they can do but look on in dismay as their chances at Gold Series go up in smoke, right along with Wildside Killer. That's the match. 5-2. Knackebrod are the first team to qualify for Season 2 of 2015 and 2016.
Exactly the same result they had in Silver Series when they played against each other, and a really good showing from Knackebrod. I thought they were the better team from the get-go. A couple of good, brilliant rounds from WASP in there as well, one on Himmelsdorf, one on Mines, but you could see right there and then, even for a slower team, you could see the ability of Knackebrod was better. Yep. They knew how to go forwards on the attack. They knew what they had to do on the defense. They have some weaknesses definitely to work out, but they got a lot of time to do that. And they definitely deserve this spot in the Gold Series.
Absolutely. Taking down No Mercy, ex-Gold Series teams, then taking down WASP as well, the German team, hoping to qualify. They've done it. They're a first team to make it through. Fantastic stuff from them as well. And this is just a glimpse of what we may see from them next season. There's a break. Of course, our finals for this season are coming up. You know, these teams that aren't participating have a lot of time to practice. So much can change now between now and next season. And Knackebrod, they've done it. They've set themselves up here. Yep. And for them, considering that they weren't a top Silver Series team, I mean, they were top 5. Yep. They were up there. But, you know, our second place team, of course, having to go up against Wooster in their first match. Rough for them, of course. But that's it. I don't know how much more we can really say about that one there. Himmelsdorf play was solid for them. I think it was solid. There was a couple moments there where they had some dubious plays. But generally speaking, I think we'll be more than happy to have them in the Gold Series next season. Yeah,
exactly. And I think, you know, WASP, they had a good outing. I think they didn't show us their full potential. I thought they could have done better in this match. But, you know, they'll be in the Silver Series still, and they will have another chance of qualifying for Gold Series. But I think they kind of threw a few rounds there. Some misplays for sure. And I think we could have seen a closer match, but yeah, that's what happens.
That is what happens, ladies and gentlemen. That is how it goes. We're going to be heading on to our next match very soon. It's going to be Wusa versus RR. Those two teams will be going ahead, and we'll see if Wusa can climb their way back up into the Gold Series. I mean, the other two relegatees weren't as lucky, but we'll be finding out how exactly that next match goes down in just a moment. We're going to go to a break, standard length, ladies and gentlemen, so hang around, fill up your drink again. We'll be back for our last match of the night real soon.